Buenos dias and welcome to More Colombian Than an Arepa podcast. I'm Sam, your host.
And I am the other half, Nick.
And today we are here for a really fun episode of one of the questions that comes up maybe the most for us.
A lot.
And that is cost of living here in Colombia. And our experience is based in Medellin, so we are going to be specifically talking about Medellin, but I do imagine that this would be in a lot of the major cities here in Colombia. There might be some that...
Yeah, I'm sure they're very similar across the country.
Right. Okay, and also, I do want to note that one thing that we can't do off the top is tell you an exact number to look for. That's one thing that always comes up to us is like, how much should I save to be able to live in Colombia? And honestly, we can't tell you an exact number.
There's no magic number.
There's no magic
number. It'd be nice if there was.
I know, but you might have like a completely different lifestyle than someone else. You might like local traditional Colombian food. You might like going to the nice trendy restaurants. You might like to spend money on travel. You might like to spend money on clothes. We don't know what your lifestyle is, and so it's really hard for us to tell you an exact amount that you have to prepare for when you move to Colombia. So with that being said, we're going to be breaking this down into general costs in a variety of different categories. The first thing that we'll be talking about is the supermarkets and the grocery store costs in and around Medellin. The public transportation will move to Ubers and third parties and how much they generally cost. We'll talk about restaurants and generally speaking, how much does it cost to go out and eat here in Colombia. We'll talk about rent prices in different neighborhoods in Medellin in particular. We'll talk about utility costs and how much it costs for water, electricity, gas, all the fun things. And then other things that you should expect when you move here.
The miscellaneous category,
like insurances, cell phone costs, gym prices, all the things that we haven't categorized into anything else. We have a lot that we need to cover today.
a lot. And we broke it down with a lot of numbers so you can get an idea of kind of what you're looking at for just cost of eggs to your internet. So
exactly.
I think we should just let's get into it, right?
Okay, yeah, okay.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
This is a dense episode.
But it is one of the most common questions, and that's why we wanted to address it in like a long form kind of way.
Yeah, and like Sam said, it's a huge disclaimer that we cannot give you a magic number and that, everything depends on you and your life and your budget. We have Goose in here today in our studio. Spectating. He's usually not allowed in here, but today he is, and he's being unique. I think that's a good word.
We call it goose manning, and he just like literally puts his arms and his legs all the way out, just sprawling out over our entire studio.
I think the actual word is called spoofing. That sounds like a dirty word.
But that was really funny. Do that.
Anyways, all right. Cost of living. Let's go.
Let's dive right in. Okay, we're going to start with supermarkets and grocery stores. Okay, but I'm going to read off of the iPad a little bit because
we need some guidance here. We can't memorize all this stuff.
Yeah, I can't. I want to tell you the exact cost, so I want to make sure that it's right. But for grocery stores, let me first start with a very popular grocery store, supermarket. It's not a grocery store. It's actually a market here in Colombia, in Medellin, called La Minorista. There's also La Mayorista as well. And those two are like, you can find literally everything there. And they are just like big food markets. So, and like fish and meat markets.
You can literally find almost anything you possibly need or want. And the produce is super high quality.
Yeah.
So way better than what you get at the grocery store or the supermarket, and a lot less expensive.
So now let's move to supermarkets. So there are like a variety of huge supermarkets here in the whole country, not just in Medellin, but in the entire country.
Chains.
And what I love about Medellin, because we used to live in New York City and there are no very big grocery stores in New York City. You have to go to like a bunch of small grocery stores to get all of your things. But what I love about Medellin is they have huge supermarkets in like all of the malls, everywhere, literally everywhere. And like I said, there are a couple of very popular ones. The least expensive but very popular supermarket is called D1, and you can find everything there. Apparently, I don't know if you know this, Nick, but you can find advent calendars for Christmas time at D1.
I have not done that in decades.
I'm going to do that this year. Someone just told me about it and I got really excited. But D1 has everything that you need for like a lower price. So then we also have like the middle tier, which is kind of a little more expensive, but not like the high-end grocery stores. And those are called Jumbo and Éxito. We went to the largest Éxito I've ever seen in my entire life over in Laureles at Viva Laureles.
No, Envigado.
No.
That was Laureles.
Yeah, it was Laureles.
Right.
And it was huge.
It's like a Walmart supercenter. If you're from the U.S. and you know or Canada, you know what a Walmart supercenter is.
That's Éxito.
That's like the equivalent.
Yes.
That one specifically in Laureles.
But those two are like the middle ground. And then the Whole Foods, if you're from the U.S., the Whole Foods are like the higher end grocery store in Colombia is called Carulla. And that one is also all around the country and is a really good high-end grocery store if you want like more like higher quality products. They also have an incredible like bread bakery.
Yeah, their bread is fantastic.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down for all of those 3 tiers that I mentioned. I want to tell you how much it costs for all of the products in each of these tiers. So in each of the grocery stores, I did some research and I'm going to tell you what the price is for eggs, milk, lunch meat, sandwich cheese, bread, mayonnaise, cereal, basic coffee, chicken, lettuce, tomatoes, onions, pasta, and tomato sauce, like bolognese sauce.
Yeah, just some staple groceries that you may or may not get, but it's just a general list.
Yeah, just so you can have a general idea of how much things cost. Now, I'm not going to tell you how much each one of these items costs in all of those grocery stores. Otherwise, this podcast might last like 14 hours. But I'm going to tell you what it costs at D1 and then the total cost at each of the other grocery stores. So at D1, the eggs cost for a 12-pack is about 7,000 pesos. A milk is about 3,000 pesos. Lunch meat is about 12,000 pesos. Sandwich cheese is about 10,000 pesos. Bread is about 3,300 pesos. Mayonnaise is 3,700 pesos. Cereal, like Fruit Loops, is 6,200 pesos. Coffee matiz, I almost said that in French or Spanish. I don't even know what language I almost said that in. It is 14,900. Chicken is 15,700. Lettuce is 1,900, 2,000 pesos. Tomatoes is 4,500 pesos. Onions are 3,000 pesos. Pasta is 2,100 pesos. And bolognese sauce is about 8,000 pesos. So in total... that all of those things at D1, like I said, that's kind of like the least expensive grocery store or supermarket here in Colombia. That is 94,600 Colombian pesos, which comes out to about $22 US for all of that.
Yeah, at the time of recording, the transaction, the peso to the dollar. Jeez, I couldn't even think of what I was saying. The peso to the dollar right now is at 42.50. So all of these prices are based off of today's exchange rate.
And
that's the word I'm looking for.
Exchange rate. Jeez, there we go. And that's October 2024.
Yes.
So, okay, now we're going to move to the middle tier. And these are just like normal grocery stores that you'll see all throughout the city. And again, they're called Jumbo and Éxito. And the general price for all of those things at Jumbo Éxito is about 155,640 pesos, which is the equivalent of about 36 US dollars. The interesting thing that I found about Jumbo and Éxito is that the same coffee at Jumbo and Éxito is about 5,000 more pesos, and the same cereal is about 6,000 more pesos. So you can definitely see the difference in prices. So depending on what you're looking for, if you're looking for just like easy access to a grocery store, because Jumbos and Exitos are everywhere and you just want it fast and quick, then there's a difference in price between D1, which are definitely, you can find them, but they're not as like regular as Exitos. Okay, moving to
in the city.
In the city.
Because outside of the city, outside of Medellin specifically, there are D1s in every pueblo, but I have not seen Carujas and Exitos in other small pueblos.
Right. Okay, so moving to Caruja, which is the kind of like the equivalent of Whole Foods or the more like high-end supermarket here.
It's large. They sell or like your home country's brand name stuff. So if you're feeling homesick and you need your certain brand of mustard, which that's me.
But they don't sell ranch.
But they
Hidden Valley Ranch, Caruja, listen to this and start purchasing.
They don't even sell the mix pack things.
No. Okay, so that entire list of groceries cost at Caruja. So first, let me tell you that some of those products aren't sold at Caruja because they are like higher end quality groceries. So they tend to be like a little bit higher end food there.
Yes.
So you can't find the same.
Quality is very high.
Yeah, you can't find the same food that I was looking at D1 and Jumbo often at Caruja. Like you can definitely find some things, but not everything. So that's why the price can be a little bit higher. But
I have noticed that the quality of the produce between all of these supermarkets are generally the same.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say the produce is better at Caruja, but the reason you go to Caruja is for the higher end just like stuff in general. And they also, if you've been to Whole Foods in the US, they have like ready to eat food that you can like sit down and eat.
Yeah.
Same here in Caruja. They have like a deli counter, you can get sliced meat, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But anyway, so the total cost for all of those products were 1,700 no, that was totally wrong. 179,000 Colombian pesos, which is about $42. So
wow, that price difference between D1 and Caruja, that's way
but
more
again,
than
it's not the same exact products because I tried to get the same products at each of them or like search for them, but that's generally speaking. Okay, so that covers supermarkets. So now you take your judgment to what is best for you and what you're looking for when you're planning your budget in Colombia. Okay, next up is public transportation, which is readily available throughout Medellin.
Yes.
You can literally find public transportation anywhere. You can take buses, trams, metros, metro cables, like everything. So that's very available.
If you've never been to Medellin, Medellin is the only city in Colombia with a metro or a subway, whatever you want to call it. And the buses are just... they're everywhere. They drive crazy, but they're everywhere. And the beautiful thing about public transportation is you can get one ticket, like for the metro, let's say, and you can take every public transportation on that one ticket because they all kind of connect, aside from the buses. So with the metro, you can do the cable car, the metro, and the tram, which runs in like the downtown El Centro area. So you can do all of that on one ticket. You just got to find the stations that connect to each other. And the purpose of that is so people that live like far outside the city still are able to come into the city for a very good price. And it's fun to see different neighborhoods. So it's a good way and a very affordable way to go explore like neighborhoods that you typically wouldn't go to.
I also recommend the metro cable.
Sam had the greatest time. And there I think are 3 different ones.
No, there are 6.
6? Wow.
Metro cables. Yeah.
And they go far too. It's not like a quick little... Anyways, you should definitely check it out. We had a great time. So Ubers, taxis. I think Ubers and taxis are kind of similar in price. Uber is definitely a little bit more, but not much. I would say like maybe 10% more. For example, from the airport of Medellin to, we'll say, Poblado, which is the most touristy area of Medellin, it's going to be around 100,000 pesos. It's the most amount of money you will spend on public transportation, and it's because of the toll. But getting around town is generally between 3 USD to, at most it'd be 10 USD. I don't even know if we've ever paid that.
Yeah.
And that's, that's going far. That's being like an hour and a half in the car. So Uber is definitely a little more affordable for tourists. And then there's Didi, which you can do the moto taxi. So Didi, if you're not familiar with that, it is similar to Uber. I think it's the same price-ish, maybe a little bit less. But the main difference is you can do the moto taxi. So if you're going by yourself, it's a very local thing to do, to call a moto taxi. So if you're brave enough to do that, they do provide a helmet.
InDrive is a cool app, though, because InDrive is like you negotiate the price.
Yes, we have never done that. We've always wanted to try it. We know many people that use it. It is very local. So say you want to go from Laureles to El Centro, for example, and you have 12,000 pesos. They can come back and either say, I'll give it to you for 14, and then you kind of come to a price, or they just won't take you at all. So that's a very unique thing I've actually never seen in the world.
I know, we should try that.
As far as like an app, I know there are places in the world you negotiate the taxi, but as far as like an app or you negotiate on an app, that's super unique to hear. So, all right. So another example, so we'll say from Provenza, which is probably the most touristy area in Medellin, which is in Poblado. It's where a lot of tourists stay, to the stadium in Laureles, which could either take 15 minutes or an hour, depending on traffic. It's around 7 USD, about 28,000, 30,000 pesos. Yeah, about 7 to 8 USD. So, if you consider you're in traffic for 45 minutes, that's not a bad deal.
So let's move on to restaurants. So restaurants are really like the main thing that's going to differentiate your budget, I think. Restaurants and like rent prices, I think, are going to really differentiate on what you're looking for, because really your budget will vary depending on the kinds of restaurants and the kinds of things that you like to do. Like, do you like nightlife? Like, what do you really like, the trendy restaurants? What are you looking
also,
for?
If you like to eat out a lot, if you're someone that never cooks, then of course your grocery bill will be lower, but eating out will be much higher. And vice versa.
Yeah. So I thought first I would kind of talk a little bit about some of the local, more traditional restaurants, like places that you can just walk into. Those prices tend to be around, I'd say, like 16,000 pesos for like a menu del dia, like a day menu. Or up to about 35,000 pesos for like a specialty Colombian dish. You can get a lot of street food too. Like, I was just walking today in downtown Provenza, or walking near Provenza, to go to my dentist appointment since I'm getting my teeth straightened. And they were selling buñuelos for 1,800 pesos. So you can get them a variety of different kinds of foods and stuff on the street for a lot more of a reasonable price, like arepas and empanadas. You can get all of those. So I would say Colombian food is going to be the least expensive option, and we love it, so we tend to eat it a lot.
As you should eat it while you're here. It's super delicious.
Yes.
It's very filling. So if you're someone that can eat a lot of food, that's a good way to go, because it'll be less expensive and you'll get 3 days worth of food in one meal.
Yes. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about restaurants, though, in the city. So in Provenza, which is where most tourists spend their time, especially in the evenings, because Provenza and the neighborhoods around Provenza, like Manila, Patio Bonito, all of these, and Tesoro even, all of these areas of Provenza are definitely where the majority of the very nice, like trendy, fun restaurants are. There are lots of trendy, fun restaurants everywhere in the city, but there's a big majority of them in this particular area. And so this area for restaurants tends to be a lot more expensive than the other parts of town. And that means like the trendy restaurants are there. So you're looking, I'm just going to like give you a ballpark, because depending on where you are in Provenza or what kind of restaurant you're at, how much you eat. If you were to go to a restaurant and you got you yourself got a cocktail and a glass of wine and a very beautiful entree, like very delicious, beautiful entree, and maybe shared an appetizer, I would imagine the cost would be anywhere between like $35 and $50 minimum. like at minimum, because cocktails can be a little bit higher.
Yeah, I think cocktails are going to be where you're going to spend most of your money. They are so delicious.
They're so good, and they're so
Medellin bartenders have figured out how to make great cocktails.
Yes, but they tend to be a little more expensive.
They are definitely more expensive.
I don't think I've seen a cocktail in Provenza less than 55,000 pesos, which is how much? How much is that?
12 or 13-ish USD.
Yeah, so cocktails are definitely higher. Alcohol in general in Provenza tends to be a little bit higher. If you're looking for good beer prices, so Club Colombia, which is like the classic domestic beer.
So delicious.
It's delicious and wonderful, but the expensive end of that is 15,000 pesos, which is what you'll see.
That's very, very expensive.
Yeah, which is what you'll see though in Provenza is about 12 to 15,000 pesos.
Yeah.
And that is about $4.
Yeah,
like
16 is 4, so we'll say less than 4. So it shouldn't be more than 4 USD.
Yes.
For one Club Colombia.
One Club Colombia. But a good price for Club Colombia is 6 to 8,000 pesos. Like that's what you'll see if you're going to like the Parque Principal in Envigado and you're just like sitting and people watching at a little liquor store there. That's like the prices that you'll see there. Liquor stores are actually a lot less expensive than restaurants, and they often will have like little tables out front, and you can just buy some booze, whether it's aguardiente or ron Medellin or Club Colombia or whatever, and sit there and enjoy the same ambiance, but not have to pay all the prices of restaurants. So if you're looking for a little tip, but I would say in general, the restaurants in Provenza are going to be, for two people, probably close to $100 for like a nice meal out.
But the restaurants are very high quality. The food is made by chefs that are trained very well. They make excellent food.
Yes.
There are actually a couple of chefs here in Medellin that are kind of up and coming and kind of being known around the world. So, come to these restaurants before they get too crazy expensive.
Right. But then, like, there are some restaurants that are even more expensive. Like El Cielo is a Michelin, isn't it?
Yeah, the experimental.
Experiential.
There we go. Some kind of speaking some language, I think. Say that one more time.
Experience.
Experiential. I don't know. Anyways, whatever she just said, those restaurants definitely, they're kind of a trendy thing right now. There are a lot popping up, and those are much, much, much more expensive.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are like celebration or, date night or something like that.
Yeah. And then also restaurants in Laureles, which is the other popular neighborhood in Medellin in particular for foreigners to spend time in. They tend to be a little less expensive, especially on Calle 70. They tend to be a little less expensive there. Bars are more reasonable. It's a little bit more reasonable there, but the trendy restaurants in Laureles are still higher prices like Provenza.
Yeah, for sure. But also the portion sizes are huge.
Yeah, exactly.
So you could even share a dish with whoever you get one appetizer and one entree. I think for two people, that's going to be a decent amount of food.
Yeah. I think maybe one day we'll do a podcast on all of our like favorite restaurants.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Leave us a comment if you want to hear that, because I could go on for hours about restaurants and food. I could tell you what to order.
The restaurant scene here in Medellin is amazing.
Yeah, the food here is insane. So if you're a foodie, you like to experiment and try different things, you need to come to Medellin.
Yeah. But hopefully that will give you generally a price for like how much things are going to cost. So if you're going out to eat in Provenza every single night or at one of these trendy restaurants 4 nights out of the week, like bake that into your budget.
Yeah.
And put
now
that
I'm thinking about all the restaurants that we should talk about.
I know.
We're going to do that in another podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Because we still have a lot to cover.
All right, okay,
so
Nick, you're up.
I think that's the general basis for restaurants. All right, next up we have rental prices. This is probably why you're listening, because this is probably one of the most asked questions that we get when it comes to cost of living. Again, we cannot provide like specific prices. We just did some research on a general apartment, not super fancy, one bedroom, one
private,
bath, private. We'll say like 800 square feet, because I think that's like an average size for an apartment. So starting in Poblado, which is if you're coming here for the first time, you're probably going to be staying in Poblado. Is the most well-known or like most touristy neighborhood. That one goes for about $1,200 a month.
Minimum. Starting.
Minimum. I would say that's starting. So.
But I would say, honestly, like, that's probably low. Like, I would say like maybe $1,700.
If you can find $1,200, I would snag that.
Yeah.
Or buy that apartment.
Yeah, that one.
Because Poblado can get crazy. Because we have seen penthouses in the $7,000-$8,000 a month range.
I mean, gosh, but they're so beautiful.
Just imagine the nicest apartment you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, it's literally, and like in New York, that apartment would be like $25,000.
Tens and tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, a month.
I wish we could do that. That sounds nice. Private terrace, private pool, private jacuzzi.
But like the reason why
5,000 square feet.
The reason why people move or want to spend time in Poblado is because Poblado is like one of the set into the mountains. It's so beautiful. Like the views in Poblado are absolutely beautiful, and so the penthouses align with the gorgeous views in this part.
Poblado is kind of set up on the side of the mountain, so if you're on a rooftop or in a tall building, you're going to have a view of the whole valley.
Yeah, it's so amazing.
So I think that's why Poblado is so popular, other than the touristy areas like Provenza. But yeah, you just have nice views. It's hard to have a bad view here. So next up we have Laureles, which is in the valley, a little more walkable. For that same apartment, you're going to go at about $1,100 USD. Mm-hmm. So a little bit cheaper. It's still a really nice area.
Yeah, we love
so things are still going to be a little bit more pricey, but it's more of a digital nomad area. A lot of amazing coffee shops, stuff like that.
Yeah, good co-working. But I will say with Laureles also, there are definitely going to be less expensive places if you know people. So you came here and decided to and wanted to shop around for prices and didn't want to just take an Airbnb price, you could stay in Laureles in a co-living place for a couple of weeks, meet people, and start to search for prices directly, like whether it's on Facebook groups or meeting people. And the prices could definitely be lower in Laureles if you do it that way. I think in Poblado, it's just going to be higher, but I definitely think in Laureles you can find it lower.
There's going to be a lot more wiggle room for sure.
Yeah.
So the last neighborhood we're going to just bring up real quick is called Envigado. It is technically not in Medellin, as the municipality right below the city. It's like a 10-minute drive from Poblado, so essentially it's in the city without being in the city. And those kind of are in the $800 to $900 range for that same apartment. You're not going to find many new buildings over there, so if you're looking for a shiny new apartment or house, definitely look in Poblado. But Envigado just has a charm to it. I feel like I love it. It just feels more chill. Everything's more relaxed. I mean, Medellin is relaxed in general, but I don't know. There's something about Envigado. The people are amazing.
They're so great.
We love Envigado.
I also think that's another one of those neighborhoods / municipalities that you can negotiate to. So these are, again, just rates you see on Airbnb. Yeah. But if you went there and spent time, I think you could probably find it for less.
Yeah, and there are tons of more neighborhoods that we're not bringing up because we can literally talk about that forever. But some other ones like Sabaneta, Belén, Estadio, El Centro, San Diego.
Yeah.
They're just a lot. So these are just some general prices for you for rent. Another thing to think about, if you're booking through Airbnb, most rental places are going to be a 30-day minimum. It is a law here in Colombia that most buildings are a 30-day minimum. There are daily rental buildings. They have to get approved. It's a whole process. If you can stay away from Airbnb, I would, because I would say most of them are...
If you're here less than 30 days.
If you're here less than 30 days.
Yeah.
I would say a lot of them are probably not legal, but that's up to your own discretion.
If you're here less than 30 days, I'd recommend you go to a co-living or rent a room in a hostel.
Hotel 23.
Hotel 23. Yeah, but that's that is a very nice
It's
hotel.
Very nice. It's small, boutique-y, but it is beautiful.
Beautiful. So beautiful.
Yeah, I wish we could live there. So rental prices, it absolutely can vary depending on your lifestyle and what you're into and what you're looking for and the length of your stay and where you're at. So,
well, like we've met some people that love the more like traditional Colombian home feel.
yeah.
And like there are homes too that you can rent
Yeah,
and like
absolutely. Fincas.
apartments. And we've known people that just like love those kind of like older but more traditional style. And we know people that like only want the luxury, only want the penthouses, only want the, like the high end high rise buildings too.
Yeah.
So it really
Medellin
depends.
has something for everybody.
Yeah, it really depends on what you're looking for, but definitely those are the starting price ranges that you can think about when you're thinking about rent here.
Yeah. All right. So that wraps up rental prices. I think that kind of helps you give you like a general idea. I think if you want more than a 1-bedroom, I think the fairest way to be like 2-bedroom might be like 2,000, 3-bedroom might be 3,000 and up. So depending on how many rooms you want. So I think that's like a fair general way to do it. Every room is like $1,000.
Mm-hmm. I see a lot of really, really, really amazing apartments that are like 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath for like $2,200 a month.
I think that's like the most common.
Yeah.
2-bedroom.
I love 'em.
2,000-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what most people are looking for.
Yeah.
All right, so next up, we're going to talk about utilities. This section is for people that are living here or going to live here, just to give you an idea of what you might pay. We've talked to a few people that have similar apartments to us, smaller, bigger, and this kind of generally pay the same. I don't really know how that works out, honestly, but it seems like we all kind of pay similar amounts. So for like a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath, like Sam was just saying, I would say the average cost might be around 600,000 pesos for gas, water, and electricity. That's about 150 to 160 USD. Again, that's average. If you run your AC 24/7, if your unit has one, you're definitely going to be paying more, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you need it, but if you want it, you're going to be paying for it.
We literally never run our AC until nighttime sometimes.
Sometimes at night. Our little puppy Mona requires it. She's a princess. So for the water uses, like I said, they're a little strict on it. I kind of have a funny story about this. So the first month we lived in our apartment, we had rented it prior, and the month we moved in, we came here with my parents or my family. And the water usage was up because everyone was showering, laundry, all that kind of stuff. And so after they left, the EPM guy came to check the meter, and he came to question me why. He came into my house and questioned me why my water usage was up. Like, what do you say? Like, I don't know. Just there were more people. He wanted to know how many people were here, how long they were here for. It was a very weird and like unique thing. I didn't really know. I was kind of sketched out because I didn't know if this was like legit, like why is he asking me how many people were here? Why were they here? How long were they here?
Well, also it was like before we really started taking Spanish lessons, so it was in our very broken.
This is all based off Google Translate.
Google translated broken Spanish.
It probably didn't translate it correctly, but from what I got from it, it's like your water usage is up and you're just gonna have to pay for it. So I assume that would have been the issue anyway. So that is kind of the general EPM. And then we have Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi here is actually really fast. I think why Medellin is such a big digital nomad hub is because, people that work need to rely on Wi-Fi. And the Wi-Fi here is actually pretty fast. It's very reliable. There are a few different companies, and it's generally, so I'll just tell you what we pay. So we go with this company called Tigo. And the most they offer is 300 megabytes download. If you know what that is, great. If you don't, that's pretty fast. You have so many devices, you need fast internet. And we pay 25 USD a month for our internet.
For like the best.
For the best, yeah. So you can get 200 megabytes, 100 megabytes. I think the 100 megabytes is like 10 USD a month. And I don't know if it's fiber optic. Honestly, I have no idea.
Do. Yeah, some buildings have it.
To be honest, I'm not that knowledgeable about all that, so I can't really tell you. But 300 megabytes, it's plenty fast enough for everything that we have. And I think compared to the U.S., I think in New York we paid 4 or 5x that.
Yeah.
For
yes.
the same internet. So I want to add one more thing about the Wi-Fi. To get Wi-Fi, you need a cedula. So you can't just like sign up for Wi-Fi, which we learned very quickly. It was kind of a huge pain to get the Wi-Fi, but once you have it, you're in.
But if you're like just spending time here, if you just are spending time, then you probably don't need to worry about
all these costs are for people that are looking to
like move and live here like us. So here are some more costs that are kind of in this miscellaneous folder. And we wanted to make sure to bring up because if you are planning on spending time here, there are definitely some more costs that you will want to consider. The first one is health insurance, which we just did an entire podcast in episode 5, which was the last podcast, talking about health insurance options. If you're planning on spending a significant amount of time here, I definitely recommend you do it. You will have to join the EPS, which is the social program, like the entry-level program.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
And that EPS is approximately 185,000 Colombian pesos per month per person. So that's about 43 USD per month.
But that includes, I don't want to go too into detail because this can get super complicated, but that includes the universal health care and your pension. So by law, you have to pay for health care and for the pension. And if you have an employer, then the employer pays it.
Right.
So since we don't have an employer here, we work freelance. We have to pay for it. It's just a law. So that price includes the pension. If we ever retire here a million years from now, we'll get a few bucks out of it.
So then, so that is required though if you do plan on spending time here.
Yes.
So if you are interested in learning more about health insurance, definitely check out our last podcast because we had our friend who is a lawyer and super knowledgeable about insurance plans.
He explains all of it in great detail.
In amazing detail. I learned so much. I didn't really do that. Nick was responsible for that when we got ours, but okay, the next one is cell phone plans. There are multiple different cell phone companies you can use.
Yeah.
We use Claro, and Claro...
It's like the biggest name, I would probably say.
Yeah, and that one is about 48,000 Colombian pesos a month, which is about 30 gigabytes of data, which is about $11 US a month. And then we have car insurance. If you're planning on getting a car here like we did, you don't need a car, but if you're planning on spending time here, like Nick and I permanently moved here, so we definitely wanted a car so that we could go out and explore. And generally speaking, again, we talked about this on our insurance podcast, and the last one was Sebastian, so you can listen a little bit more there. There's a whole bunch of different costs that go into it, but I think it's really about 80 USD to 100 USD a month, depending on the kind of car and the price of the car and your history.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So the gas prices here, you want to talk, Nick is also the one that knows the gas prices. So
I want to add one small thing for the car insurance. It is important to know if you move here as a foreigner, you don't have a driving record, so your insurance is going to be the most expensive right away because you don't have, like in the U.S. it's the same way. When you're 16 or whenever you get your driver's license, it's more expensive because you don't have any like history, like driving history. So the longer you have your insurance here, the cheaper it gets.
Okay, so you want to talk about gas prices?
Yeah, so gas is kind of funny here. It took me a long time to realize this. So the car is filled up in liters, but the price at the gas stations is in gallons. How does that make sense? I have no idea. So, for example, the regular gas, whatever you want to call it, it's 15 to 16,000 pesos, depending on where you get it, which is about 4 USD per gallon, but you're filled up in liters. So for a long time, I thought it was 4 USD for 1 liter.
Ooh, that would have been high.
So I'm like, how do people afford to drive? It's more than the U.S., and in the U.S. it's crazy expensive.
Yeah.
So someone told me, the price is in gallons, and it just made total sense. But so that's kind of the price for the regular, and then there's another option for like the premium, and I think that's like 5 USD a gallon, so about $1 more.
Okay, So going to doggy daycare, we've looked at a whole bunch of doggy daycares because although Goose is 4.5 and the chillest apartment dog, we do have a 6.5-month-old puppy, Mona, who has
kind of psycho.
lots of energy. And so while we're working during the day, she goes and hangs out with her friends at doggy daycare, and there are a bunch of different doggy daycares. So when we were looking, the average price was around 620,000 Colombian pesos for 4 days a week of doggy daycare. Some of those include overnight stays, depending on the doggy daycare that you do. We don't do the overnight stays, but that price does include it. So that's about 130 to 150 USD a month for 4 days a week, like all day doggy daycare.
Yeah.
So the gym cost here is about 22 USD a month. You can find discounts on those. And the most popular gym in Medellin is Smart Fit, but there are definitely a lot of other gyms that you can find. Okay, those are just some of the miscellaneous costs that we came up with, but there are things that we don't know or we do know, but we really can't give you a general price for them because we don't know what your specific needs are within them. But like we don't have children, so we don't have private schools. We don't know how much private schools cost. We don't know how much nannies or babysitters tend to cost here. Maybe we'll have someone who has children here who can talk a little bit about.
So if you're listening, you know somebody here that wants
has
to be
kids.
on our podcast,
who
that can help us out with that.
That would be great. Please let us know in the comments. Also, HOA fees vary depending on your apartment. If you're just planning on spending a couple of months here and renting, you probably don't need to worry about that. But if you do plan on living here, buying a place here, then you definitely have to bake that into your monthly costs.
I think every building has HOA.
Yes. Medications you need, we can't tell you how much those cost. If you're interested in looking at medications, I recommend you download the app Rappi, RAPPI, and Googling your medication on Rappi to see generally how much that costs within pharmacies, because that could be a good way for you to see how much that
true.
costs.
Also costs for like almost anything.
Yeah,
Rappi delivers pretty much everything. So if you have a question of like what X would cost, just go on Rappi.
So then next is clothing costs. That also depends on the kind of clothes that you like, and shopping costs in general. Just really depends on what you look for. What kinds of clothes do you like? Name brands? Do you like off-brand? Yeah. Are you willing to go to El Hueco and find the name brand products for a discount rate? Like, it really depends on you. But those are other general costs that you should probably look into before, if they apply to you, before you start really budgeting for your time here.
Yeah, I think something I want to add to that, because Sam mentioned like the name brand stuff is more expensive. So Colombia has really high import taxes. So if you're used to a specific brand of like shampoo or whatever, and you want to find that same one here, you could probably find it, but it's going to cost you a lot more money. Mm-hmm. So if you want to save some money, find the Colombian version of whatever you're looking for. There will be a Colombian brand, and it'll be a lot less expensive.
That's a good tip.
Like, for example, we didn't mention PriceSmart in the supermarkets. It's Costco, it's the same exact thing. And they sell U.S. brand items like laundry detergent and stuff like that, but it's a lot more expensive. So that's something to think about. So if you're going grocery shopping and you want to buy Tide Pods, you're going to be paying extra for it.
Yes, that's really good advice. Yeah, and there's everything here, like literally everything. We've had no issues finding anything except for ranch. That's the only thing.
Sam just put out a video today about ranch. Literally just created an Instagram video about ranch.
We were just in the U.S. and ranch is like the greatest thing in the entire world.
50 different ranch flavors. I didn't even know that existed. I'm from the U.S.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, thank you for sticking around. It's been a long episode, but we hope that it's been really helpful for you so that you can understand generally how much things cost here in Colombia, so that you can start to build your budget if you're thinking about spending any kind of time here. But it is a very complex thing to talk about, lots of moving parts. So if you have any specific questions, then definitely leave them in the comments of this podcast, wherever you're listening to it. We're happy to answer as many questions as we can and help you as much as we possibly can. If you know anyone that's planning on spending any time here that might be interested in learning about cost of living, then definitely send them this podcast. I think that they would find it to be helpful and beneficial as they start to budget for their time here in Colombia. But thank you so much for sticking around. On the next episode, we actually have another Life in Colombia episode where we're interviewing our friend Andrea and talking about her experience living and buying a house here in Colombia as well. She's fantastic. It's a lot of fun.
She is a lot of fun.
She's a lot of fun. I'm really excited for this next podcast to come out. But please stick around for that. Follow, share, comment, do all the things. We're just starting out, so it really helps us out. Thank you so much. If you'd like to follow our social medias, we have a podcast social media at More Colombian Than an Arepa, and we also have our personal social media, which is probably where you know us from, and that's at Colombia_expats. So check us out on all the social platforms. Muchísimas gracias. And until next time, hasta pronto.